Around the world, law enforcement divers play an important role in solving crimes and helping to protect the public. Dave Carver is a deputy with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department and the head of their dive team.
My name is David Carver. I'm a Los Angeles County Deputy Sheriff, currently assigned to the Emergency Services Detail Unit, which is a search and rescue unit on the Sheriff's Department that responds to dive incidents or dive issues around the County of Los Angeles. Being hired by the sheriffs back when I was hired, 25 or 26 years ago, is pretty much like it is today. You have to, take a written test. You have to go for an oral interview. You have to have a psych evaluation. You have to have usually a polygraph test, and then there's an extensive background test. So it's not something that happens overnight. It takes a period of 3 to 6 months to get through the process. But once you get through the process and you're hired, it's pretty straightforward. They set you up with an academy date, and then you start the academy. After I graduated from the Sheriff's Academy, I was assigned to the jail facility downtown. After leaving the jail facility, I was assigned a patrol deputy at Firestone Sheriff Station in South Central Los Angeles. From there, I went as a gang investigator for the County of Los Angeles and worked several different parts of the county before becoming a homicide detective. And then after being a homicide detective for a number of years, I got the unique opportunity to come down to our search and rescue team, which is Emergency Services Detail, as a diver, paramedic, SWAT medic, helicopter medic. Although I've been diving since the age of 12 years old and been on the department since 21, I wasn't really able to combine my love for diving to more of a profession until I got to the search and rescue unit. And that's one of the main jobs that we do at Emergency Services Detail as public safety divers. So it took a number of years, but I was able to finally combine the two, both on the job for the Sheriff's Department and the love for diving into a career. All right, the three probably most important skills that I have working emergency services details would be my paramedic skills, my diving skills, and my tactical skills. My paramedic skills I got when I came to the unit. They put me through paramedic training, and it's one of the skills that I use pretty much every day when I'm at the unit, working on a helicopter or out on a rescue boat, or even up in the mountains in one of our cars. Probably the second most for me would be my diving skills, just because it's an area at the unit that I'm very specialized in. So dive training, just keeping abreast of all the changes that occur in the diving industry with equipment and things like that is very important to me. And then my tactical skills, because we go out with the SWAT team, keeping up those tactical skills as a tactical paramedic for the team is very important for the unit. Beyond the 240-hour, 2-month public safety diver course that we put our divers through, all the divers eventually get to go through a full face mask course and are assigned a full face mask, either an AGA or Guardian with comm systems. Some of the divers we have been through the Kirby Morgan or a surface supplied course, so we can use those at an ongoing operation. About a third of the unit has been through deep diving or technical diving, trimix training, where they're trained in using mixed gases, nitrox, helium-based, blending of the gases and things like that. And then about half of our unit, about a third of the unit, has been through rebreather training. A rebreather is a unit that allows us to kind of use that gas more efficiently. It goes through, the carbon dioxide scrubbed out, and a little bit of oxygen is added to it. That enables us to use it either as a deep diving unit or extending diving times at shallower depths for major operations and things like that. Those are some of the things that are specific to kind of our dive unit. A typical day as an emergency services detail deputy would be getting to work, getting my gear together, getting a workout in, heading down to the Long Beach Airport where all my gear is placed on the helicopter, SWAT gear, paramedic gear, medic gear. At that point in time, we're subject to call, whether it's a dive operation that we might be on or getting called out to a missing hiker or an injured hiker or a motorcyclist. Those are all very typical calls we will get on Air Rescue 5. If it's a dive operation, the helicopter will fly us to wherever we need to fulfill that operation, drop us off, then pick us back up, and then once we're back in service, we might be back up in the mountains answering those type of calls. Tasks that we're detailed to do as a sheriff or a law enforcement diver would be primarily to recover evidence. That's one of the main things we do is recover evidence from, we've recovered guns to knives to bows to crossbows, things like that, to stuff that's been stolen in a robbery that the suspect might have thrown in a lake or a waterway. So recovery evidence is one of the big things. Recovery of planes and boats that might have sank for investigation needs is another one of the things we do. And then recovery of bodies, probably I think one of the most important things we do, because family members want to be able to bury their loved ones. So recovery of the body, whether it's in a lake, a river, or out in the ocean, all three of those mediums are places that we will recover a body, bring them to the surface, so that body can then be handed over to the coroner's office so an autopsy can be performed. The emergency services detail makes up 18 divers. 17 of them are male. We picked up a female diver, female paramedic diver last year. She finished her dive training last summer, and she's an integral part of our unit. Besides the 18 divers we have in the core group here at Emergency Service Detail, there's several divers out at Castaic Lake and Pyramid Lake. Marina Del Rey has a dive team. But whenever there's a large-scale operation, it goes through Emergency Services Detail. We respond throughout the county to fulfill whatever dive, whether it's evidence recovery, body recovery, vehicle recovery, wherever the county will respond to. The Sheriff's Department, anytime anybody dies in the County of Los Angeles, in our jurisdiction, and it's not of natural causes, there's going to be an investigation conducted. In regards to dive fatalities, that investigation is conducted by my unit, and since about 2007, been conducted by me personally. Because of my homicide background, dive background, that investigation comes to me. And we're trying to rule out any criminal culpability on the part of a dive partner, a dive captain, or a dive operation. That's our first task. But most of these are just accidents. So we're trying to find out from the interviews and from the equipment so we can kind of tell the family what occurred, why their loved one passed away, doing what most people consider a fairly safe sport. Teamwork amongst all the deputies that work at the unit is of utmost importance, from the helicopter pilots to the boat handlers, the pilots on the boat, to the divers, to the tenders, to the dive safety officer. When all those people work together, the operations run fairly smoothly. Having good communication skills amongst all those people, being able to rely on your partners, knowing they're good at their job, just makes doing my job underwater as a diver that much easier. So for me, teamwork is one of the most important skills and the most important thing as a unit that we can practice, because without the teamwork, it's really hard to do a successful operation. The best thing I think about my job is the fact that every day I show up to work, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. The slate's clean. I could be one day getting on a helicopter thinking this is going to happen, and next thing you know, I'm in a dive operation at Catalina Island or one of the local lakes. Half hour after that, I'm up in the local mountains, maybe rescuing a motorcyclist that's crashed. So every day's different. You never know what's going to happen. So staying trained and being able to train keeps it fresh. It's exciting. It's fun. You never fall into a rut, because you can't, because there's no rut you can get into. It's just different every day you come to work. Some of the hazards that public safety divers have to deal with, diving in contaminated water, whether the contaminant is diesel fuel, airplane fuel, fecal material, or just black water, just not being able to see gauges, are all things that most public safety divers have a problem with. Being around down aircraft or cars create entanglement hazards. Usually these planes and cars aren't in water that the visibility is very good, so the possibility of getting entangled is greatly increased. Having to dive in moving water from the rivers and the aqueducts we have all tend to have pressure differentials, getting maybe stuck on a tree or a grate or some type of mechanical thing underwater. You can be pushed into a car that you might not be able to get away from. So those are all hazards we have to deal with, and we try to mitigate those by diving safely, trying to learn about those hazards, and wearing proper equipment that's supplied by the department. Some of the sacrifices during the course of my career may be some of the same that some other people in different walks of life have, but when you get on the department, you're trying to make a name for yourself. So there's long hours spent on patrol or at the gang unit or even at homicide that you're taken away from your family. Specifically as a diver or an ESD deputy, long hours of training, sometimes here in LA County, sometimes away from home. The job I work right now, I'm on for 48 hours and I'm off for four days, but sometimes those 48 hours will bleed into multiple days. So there's times on the department I've had to tell the family, look, I think I'll be off now, but it could be then. And the family my family's been very good at just being very patient with me and my career, that maybe I might not be home at 8 o'clock like I expected to be, because the dive operation takes a lot longer. So those are sacrifices that I think, they're maybe not sacrifices I make, but they're sacrifices my family makes.